Mr. President, I come to the floor of the Senate today to express myself on Judge Brett Kavanaugh, who's been named by President Trump to the Supreme Court of the United States, subject to confirmation of the United States Senate. Probably the most serious responsibility all of us have are the confirmation of those who are appointed to lifetime appointments in the judiciary and certain other high places in our government. It's a responsibility that should be treasured, respected, and never abused or never trivialized. President Trump has done what every president has done in the past. He's nominated the best that's available. And Brett Kavanaugh, who pens before this Senate today, there's no better person for the job of the United States Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh is the real deal. He's the real deal, and he went to Yale. That doesn't make him great. I think the University of Georgia is great myself. But Yankees brag a lot about Yale, so we always say nice things about him. But he's very smart. Graduated cum laude from Yale. He has trained so many young lawyers in his career. It's not even funny. He's had so many clerks with him. He's written so much that's been copied by other courts and adopted as part of the law. That's a great testimony to his ability and his intellect. Served several years as a partner in Kirkland & Ellis, a private firm. He serves on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. He has been a teacher and today teaches at Harvard University in the Samuel Wilson Lecture Series, and was nominated by Elena Kagan, a member of the United States Supreme Court. But he's the real deal in a lot of ways, and I want just a minute to share why I'm going to vote for him. I want somebody on the Supreme Court who understands me, an average American, somebody with a family, 2 kids, works for a living, loves their country, would do the right thing and won't do it for any other reason than to do the right thing. My motto in life has always been Mark Twain's quote: when confronted with a difficult decision, do what's right. You'll surprise a few, but you'll amaze the rest. Doing the right thing is the right thing to do every time, but it's the hardest thing to do almost any time. In fact, as my father used to say, son, do what you want to do when nobody's looking, and do the same thing when nobody's looking that you do when they are looking. Because you always want to do the right thing regardless of the question, regardless of what answer you have to give. Supreme Court is a tremendous responsibility in our government. It's 1/3 of our government. We have a 3-legged school of government, the bureaucracy that we are in the legislative branch, the executive branch the president runs, but the Supreme Court's the ultimate arbiter. And I want a level-headed person who understands me making those decisions. I think the following qualifies as a level-headed person. More than a dozen times, his opinions have been endorsed by the United States Supreme Court. His 100 most cited opinions have been cited by more than 210 judges across the country. More than 50 circuit court opinions discuss or cite one of his concurrences or dissents. And of his 48 clerks, 39 have gone on to clerk at the Supreme Court of the United States. One of his clerks, Britt Grant, was confirmed by this United States Senate last week from Georgia to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. That's a pretty high testimony to a man of his youth and a man of his experience. He's got 2 beautiful children, a lovely wife, committed family man, but let me tell you what makes him special. He's not pretentious. My first meeting with him was an odd meeting. It was a rare meeting. It was on the first floor outside the elevators coming to this chamber, where I'd just come in from the rain. I was standing there trying to get myself halfway dried off, and here comes a slew of police coming in. I figured the president was coming. Somebody, they always run us out of there. The cops came in, everybody else, the dogs came in, everybody came in. All of a sudden, there was this guy over there. At first, I didn't recognize him. And then I realized with all the press trying to get up close to him, but they couldn't. He must be somebody really important. He wasn't one of us. It was Brett Kavanaugh. He saw me, he stopped, he came over, he said, Johnny, how are you doing? That impressed me a lot. Of course, I know he's been back there studying this, and just like you pages have, remembering who we are so you can say our name. It's a good thing to do. But he knew it just like I was his old long-lost friend. And he stopped and we talked for 4 or 5 minutes. 2 days later, when he came to my office and we talked again, we talked about family, we talked about food, we talked about fun, we talked about the United States of America, and we talked the greatness and the potential of our country and its future. We talked about everything we loved about it and what we'd do to protect it and save it, and how we both felt honored to be in the positions that we were in. And toward the end of the conversation, I said, now, one thing about Mr. Kavanaugh, I understand you had a little issue with buying season tickets to baseball games. In fact, the Democrats, the first thing they came up about and said, well, he makes too much money or has got too much money because he bought season tickets to the Washington game and used his credit card. I don't think that's a dumb idea. I think that's a compliment to him. guy who loves baseball, loves politics, and loves America. It doesn't get any better than that. So that's why I'm going to vote for Brett Kavanaugh to confirm him in the United States Supreme Court. Because he's a regular guy, he's a brilliant man, he cares about his country deeply, he believes in his country, and he feels a responsibility he wants to assume at his time in life. I can't think of any better reason to vote for him. I'm going to vote for him with pride, and I urge all my fellow senators in the United States Senate to join me as well.